TrainingPeaks Virtual. TrainingPeaks has just recently launched a couple of weeks ago this new virtual software, pretty much rival Zwift and some of the other online platforms. So I thought I'd put together a little simple guide and my thoughts and overview of having just used it a handful of times. And I hope this helps for those of you using some of the other platforms in the Northern Hemisphere heading into winter. I know we spend quite a lot of time indoors. So it's not going to be a long one. Just grab a pen and paper or just pause in certain sections and you can follow it if you're interested. I've used Zwift off and on since COVID, and bit of a, not a love-hate relationship, but obviously they've put their price up as well recently. In summer, we tend to not use it very much. And then winter, we like to join some friends online, or some people just like to follow the workouts. With TrainingPeaks, the idea is that you have your zones and your activities, your workout library that's already prescribed from a coach perspective, already there, and it syncs automatically. And I'm going to just dive into an easy, simple process to follow. I'm not tech savvy. I struggle a little bit with all the extra bits of external things to Bluetooth or sync up. So I can relate to pretty much 80% of my athletes I coach pretty well, because you get the odd person that's super savvy and spends a lot of time understanding this and syncs it up. But that's certainly, in my experience, the minority. I just want to add, this is my honest opinion. I've got no interaction with TrainingPeaks. They've not asked me to do anything. I've been using TrainingPeaks pretty much 12 to 14 years myself, and it's about time they've stepped up the game into the virtual world, and it's fantastic. So let's dive into it. You might have had already, if you're a TrainingPeaks user, an email saying we've started TrainingPeaks Virtual, or if you're completely new to it and just want to find out about it, follow these basic steps and I'll show you pretty much what I think along the way of using it. So firstly, you've got to download the free software. You can use a tablet, laptop, or if you've got a smart TV, and it's also linked with Apple TV, which most of us have, which is pretty cool. So you can have your training room with a spare smart TV. You're prompted immediately to either log in with your TrainingPeaks account if you already got one. If you're a new user, it's simple. You can just set one up. I suppose their goal is to try and get you to pay the premium subscription, which it's free. This is free till March 25, I believe, and then premium athletes don't pay for the service. But the idea is to get you to then pay the premium. As a coach, we cover the premium costs of TrainingPeaks. So in essence, it's free for the athletes that are coached. So it's definitely worth it, considering the price now of these indoor platforms. As I said, the cost, it's now £18, or probably a little bit more in dollars where you're listening, for a monthly subscription. So you might not notice it, but it's starting to add up, all these little extra subscriptions. So if you feel like you can get on with this, which I think you can, having been a Zwift user, I haven't gone onto the other platforms because it gets too much. It's just too complicated. So you've logged in, you've added your TrainingPeaks user details. What's super cool, what Zwift didn't use, was it just extracts your FTP and your weight and your details, and then when you update that on your TrainingPeaks, or your coach does, it then auto syncs with the virtual world. So you don't have to have two sets of FTP, which most of us would have had an issue, because if I set 3-minute intervals at 300 watts, for example, on the bike, that's based off a percentage of your FTP inputted by us. And then if you haven't changed your Zwift setting, a lot of the sessions are either too hard or too easy for the athlete. So first, big tick. If you've never used TP or TrainingPeaks, I refer to, no fear, it'll guide you through and it'll auto sync everything. It'll just basically help you set your zones. You might have to do some bike testing first, and I assume you have some sort of smart trainer. Smart trainer is something now that's fairly commonly used. £300-400 purchase price, a Wahoo, a Tax. I use a Tax Flux too. And it basically has a built-in power, and it's smooth to ride, and that Bluetooths to your device, and it can then auto adjust your power and regulate your terrain. Basically, that's what a smart trainer does, plus set you some decent workout. Now, you ideally need power. So it'll have to, firstly, when you log in, it'll ask you to sync to all your devices. So it'll be heart rate sensor. Your smart trainer does your cadence and your power. Once you've done that once, all sorted. So that's fairly normal for all these platforms, and you would have had to do that on something else if you were using Zwift before. If you have a custom workout plan for that day, which I would have set as a coach, or you've built one yourself, then you can auto select that and it'll just swing it in straight away, and you just simply start. I had a dropout straight away on erg mode, which it was probably just the communication from the smart trainer. So I just closed down the virtual thing once. It's really quick to fire up, unlike some of the other platforms, and it reconnected and immediately had erg mode in straight away. So you then just select your world that you want to ride in, and that's pretty straightforward. The terrain is, it's a virtual world, so it's not going to blow you away visually, but it's something to keep your eye on. And I find the screen itself, the visuals of your heart rate, cadence, power, and workout where you are in the reps and the duration is fairly straightforward and easy to follow and quite nicely laid out. What I found was really quite nice is if you hover, you've got to have your tablet quite close to you. You hover your finger down to the bottom of the screen, as I've got on the little video here, and you can immediately do plus and minus 1% increases of your power, which I know Zwift did, but it was always quite a hassle. You had to have Zwift Companion as another app, and I found that was another step for the athletes. You can do that in front of you, and with one click as well, you can change off erg into terrain mode or free mode. I found that was quite cool because sometimes we want to get you, for example, in free mode to do a 5-minute flat out effort. I don't want a hill, I don't want erg. I just want you in the bike and using your gears on your Wahoo or your road bike or whatever you've got on there. So that was quite a cool feature, and that was quite key for them. The screen graphics, powered by Indie Velo, I believe TrainingPeaks acquired them. I found pleasant, pretty smooth, so no like massive dropouts or anything that you used to get where it was sort of like you had to have a very stable interconnection, but it was just often just blurred. Not that I really looked at the scenery, but you know what I'm getting at. You just want a smooth experience. So I found that pleasant and easy to follow, and you can switch between worlds. And the other nice thing is you can just then choose with one step back, or you just go one step back. It's very easy to navigate. You never have to go to multiple screens. You can then find mates. So you click on the bottom, the main screen pops up, the little menu, ride with a friend, and of course you can search for someone that's linked into the TrainingPeaks Virtual world. You can easily ride with mates now. You just find them on the screen, you go one step back, which is a brilliant feature. Of course, most of these platforms have, but let's face it, it was a bit of a helpline in COVID, just knowing that 5 of your friends, you can do a meetup. So you find them through the TrainingPeaks Virtual world if they're online, and you can request to ride with them, etc. So that's quite straightforward. Right, you've done. Once you've done, as usual, a review will pop out. And I actually found it pretty useful, the review, the comparison. It also dives deeper, if you're interested in the details, into critical power and comparisons with heart rate, etc. And then as you build your library, it'll have more reference and data to compare same workout like for like, I'm sure. And remember, it's in the beta phase, so there'll be loads of bugs, and certainly by March, I'm sure they would have ironed this out. They're a massive company, they're not going anywhere. They've been around for decades. Most coaches use this platform of choice. The others, they definitely have the market share, so they have a big IT budget. They're gonna make it work really well. So I would give it a go and save some money at the same time. Let me know if you don't enjoy it, or if you do, that'll be quite nice. Watch some of my other videos around nutrition, hydration, and how to build your own training plan. Happy training, happy winter, happy Christmas.